Hey guys, welcome to our first ever Q&A on the 2019 Alaska Airmen Association Raffle Airplane, which is right here. As you can see, we made a lot of progress in the last week or so. We've got the wings on it now. We're pretty much done with it. We just have a couple other little cosmetic things to button up, and then she'll be ready to fly, which will probably be this Saturday for the maiden voyage. Yeah, so basically I guess where we're going to work this is you guys ask questions. If you have any, I'd be happy to tell you answers as I can make them up. And otherwise I'll just kind of go around and show you what we got on this year's airplane. I know most of you have been following the whole process, so you kind of have an idea what there is, but for those that don't, we'll just go over the whole airplane and show you all the bells and whistles that are on it.
Asking if the plane is eligible for a autogas STC.
So the question is whether it's eligible for an autogas STC, and I have to do a little bit more research to verify. I know it does not have an autogas STC. However, I believe with the 180 horsepower conversion that's on this, you cannot do an auto fuel STC because of the higher compression in the engine. But I'm not 100% sure on that, so I'd have to do some research to find out for sure. So I guess we'll just kind of go around this whole thing and show you all the stuff it's got. Obviously it's got the Trailblazer constant speed propeller on it now. And this is a pretty sweet prop. It's very lightweight. It only weighs a few more pounds than the aluminum equivalent fixed pitch. It's a foam core, so it's just foam and it's wrapped in carbon fiber. And then it's got, I believe it's a nickel alloy leading edge for abrasion resistance. And of course, inside here is a hub mechanism that actuates the blades and actually twists them so you bite more or less air depending on the phase of flight you're in. Takeoff, you'd want a flat pitch, so the prop control inside the cockpit goes full forward, and when you give it full power, you're going to get the full 180 horsepower red line before the airplane even starts rolling. With a fixed pitch prop, you usually can't get all the way to red line right at the beginning of the takeoff roll because the prop doesn't have the capacity to twist. And you're also stuck with either a climb prop where you get off the ground fast but you cruise slow, or a cruise prop where it takes you longer to take off, but you can get there faster. This gives you the best of both worlds. And that's powered back up under here by a governor, which is oil and fly weights and sends oil pressure out to that hub to activate the blades on the constant speed propeller.
And we have a question. Gary wants to know, how long does the winner of the plane have to move it?
Usually that's a good question, and it's always, every year it's different. It's kind of a chaotic deal because all of a sudden it's right at the end of the show. The winner's announced. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're out of state, sometimes they're out of country. We usually try to call them right there at the show in front of everybody, get the reaction over the PA system. Most of the time, so far, it's been difficult to get a hold of them right away. But it's one of those deals where the show is also closing, so it's a mass exodus to get all of the booths and all the static displays and everything out. So usually we take care of the airplane, and if we can talk to the winner and find out if they've got a place to park it, then we'll take it to their destination. Otherwise, we'll find a place at Lake Hood to park the airplane while we work out the logistics of transferring ownership. And the other part of that is that the taxes for the airplane have to get paid before the owner can take possession of the airplane, and that is, they have, I believe it's 60 days to get the taxes paid, and then they actually own the airplane.
And then we have another question of, do we have 35-inch bush wheels for it?
Do we have 35-inch bush wheels for it? We do. Oh, no, those are mats. They are back in the corner. Right now we're on 850s because it's much easier to work on the airplane. You can imagine height of the ladder that Andrew would need to get up to the top of the wing right now if it had 35-inch tires. So I believe 850s sit about 18 inches from bottom to top. So you can imagine 35 inches, it's going to really change the attitude. So it's one of the last things we put on, and that's Alaska bush wheels, of course. And that's the reason why they're not on there right now, but they will be going on shortly.
And do we have floats for the airplane?
We do have floats. They are out back. They're not new floats because it's interesting. We reached out to all the float manufacturers, and right now there are no floats available. I got different reasons for that, but essentially we have a set of floats that we're going to donate to the cause because we want the winner to have floats. So being that they're not brand new, we're probably not going to bring them down to the show to put them on display, but once we determine the winner, we will collaborate with them and get them the floats and probably spruce them up a little bit for them. Yeah, so feel free to interrupt with any questions you have. But on that Governor, that's Wings West Governor Overhaul and Exchange donated that. So thanks to them for that. Let's see what else we got. The cowling is part of the Cub Crafters 180 horsepower STC, which they were generous to sponsor. The cool thing about that is that it's a clamshell, so you don't have to take the propeller off to take the nose bowl off, which is standard on a normal Cub. So you can actually just disconnect the two halves and pull it apart, and there's the whole engine. Really easy to work on.
Mark would like to know when the flight video is going to happen.
The flight video, we like to call it the fluffer video. That is scheduled for this weekend, and we've got a generous local pilot with a mall, Ryan Kirby, who always donates his time to be the chase plane, and the weather outside is looking beautiful, so we should get some really good footage. And yeah, that'll happen this weekend.
So we have a couple. Hey Kevin wants to know, have you weighed it yet?
We have not weighed it yet because we haven't quite finished all the finishing touches. Andrew's working on the wing root panels right now, carbon fiber from Carbon Concepts, and then he's putting the fuel tank covers on. So everything's got to be 100% done before we can weigh it. And of course we have to put the 35s on. I mean, we could do the math on that, but it's just easier to have the airplane all the way done and rolled up on scales. So I'm anticipating either tomorrow afternoon or Saturday morning for weighing it. And we will put out a fun little contest to see who can get closest to guessing the weight before we weigh it. So look for that on our Facebook page.
And then Paul would like to know, why did you choose to not have a veneer mixture control?
Good question. And again, it would go back to legalities. Technically, a Cub was certified without a veneer mixture control, but that could be considered a minor alteration to change it out to a veneer. But the other thing is, Atlee Dodge sponsored the control cables, minus the prop control, which was part of Brian Sutton's professional pilots STC. So there's the answer to that.
Paul would like to know approximate price of the taxes. Lots of people like to know that.
Good question. How much are the taxes? Historically, it's based on the bid price that the Airmen's contracts out the builder for, and it is, I don't know what the percentage of the bid price is, but I know that the last few years has been in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. So it's a big chunk of change, but you could finance the airplane with the bank to pay the taxes. It'd be really sad, but you could also sell the airplane, pay the taxes, and pocket the cash, or buy a different airplane. But it is probably the best lottery going in Alaska if you look at it from a financial standpoint.
And how many tickets did they sell, and are there any left?
This year they sold 12,500 tickets, and they are sold out as of I believe, Tuesday. So if you snoozed, you losed. Sorry.
And Gary wants to know, how long did this take to build start to finish?
A long time. This one was definitely the most complex Cub that we've built for the Airmen's. I mean, as we go around, you'll see it's just got so much on it. And one of the big time consumers was the fact that it's a wide body, so it's 4 inches wider than a standard Cub, and that means that the standard Cub boot cowl doesn't fit. It means that floorboards are wider. It means that control cables are longer. It means that the windshield is different. The skylight's different. Everything's different. So all of those things had to be custom fabricated. We got this as a wrecked project in July of last year, and we tore that down, inventoried all the parts and pieces, and found out what was reusable and refurbishable. And we really got cranking on it probably in December. And I would say that all told on this one, we're pushing about 2,000 man hours. So do the math on the labor on that one and see how far in the red we are. But it's all for a good cause, and we enjoy doing it. And yeah, hopefully the Airmen's will have the finances to fight for GA.
Matt would like to know, why is the prop control on right far side of panel?
That was kind of at the discretion of the installer, and my thought was, if I'm going to have the throttle on the left side, I can control my throttle at the same time I can fine-tune my prop. I realize that the next question is going to be, who's going to hold the stick, right? If you got it trimmed out, you should be able to fly it hands off. You also have knees, you could pinch the stick. The other reason is because all of the engine controls are over there, except for the throttle, of course. So you've got the mixture and the carb heat, primer, starter, mags, everything's kind of in that quadrant. So rather than breaking that up, that was the primary reason. So.
John would like to know, nickel leading edge or stainless on the prop?
I think it's the prop leading edge is. I asked Hartzell, they told me, and it's been months, but it's an alloy, so it's a combination, and I seem to recall they said nickel, but it also has other molybdenums or some hard metal in it, so it's supposed to be like one of the strongest leading edges that's available.
I want David to get it because he says he's not selling it. He'll find the money.
Nice. Hope you get it, David.
Okay.
Cool.
I think that's all the questions for now, so we can continue with the tour.
Okay. So engine's got all kinds of
180 horsepower.
Yep. It's an O360, so it's horizontally opposed. It's not fuel injected. It's just carbureted. It was overhauled by Western Skyways. They're sponsored that, and the core of the engine was sponsored by Cub Crafters. So they actually sent the core to Western Skyways, and they overhauled it and sent it up here. It's a C1G model, which basically gives it the front mount oil governor, prop governor mount, which is really nice because the alternative is to put the governor on the back of the engine, which ends up putting a compartment through the firewall, and it's really hard to service back there. So puts it up front, cleans it all up. It doesn't have any oil lines running around. Let's see what else. Part of the Cub Crafters kit is the oil cooler gets rear mounted. Ordinarily it's mounted up front, but it gets moved back here, which shortens the oil lines, saves weight. It's got the Sutton exhaust on it, which traditionally the Cub exhaust comes back here and back through what little space is back there. Very difficult to work on. This brings it up front, saves weight, makes it more ergonomic to work on. You can see these red leads here. Those are spark plug leads for the electro-air electronic ignition. So ordinarily you have two magnetos that run the spark plugs. They don't require any electricity, and they run, each magneto runs one spark plug on each cylinder. So you'll see when we go to the other side that these are not red over there, because these are going to the electro-air pickup, which replaces the magneto, one of the magnetos, whereas the other side, the bottom plugs are run by a traditional magneto, which is because the electro-air is battery powered. If you lost your electrical system, you'd lose that magneto. So through certification, the FAA required they had a backup magneto, a standard non-battery operated magneto. So it provides the redundancy. The electronic ignition is going to manage the spark not only much hotter, but at a different timing than the original mag. So that original mag, standard mag, is effectively just firing spark plugs for no reason at a different time. So it's the electro-air is going to provide essentially all this, the usable spark, and it's much more efficient in fuel burn and performance. In the 2017 Raffle Plane, if you recall, it was the lightweight plane, and it came with an electrical system, but it wasn't installed because we were trying to keep it lightweight. So I got to actually fly that airplane for about 15 hours on just the regular mags, and then we put the winner decided to put the electrical system in, and when we put that electro-air electronic ignition in it, I felt like something was wrong with the airplane when it took off, because it was just so smooth and quiet, and it is definitely a significant difference. So I'd recommend those. Let's see what else we got. There's piles and piles of wires up in here, and those are doing a lot of different things. This has a full Tannis preheating system, sponsored by Tannis, and that puts a probe into each cylinder. It also puts a pad on the oil sump, and I'll show you on the other side where you plug it in. When you plug it in, a little light comes on to tell you that you have ground power and that you are preheating. It also has internally regulated thermostat, so it brings the temperature of the engine up to 100 degrees and leaves it there. So you can plug it in overnight, walk away, come back, and your engine's nice and toasty. It's also coming with a full set of winter covers, and that will include an engine cover from Alaska Wing Covers. So you'll be able to keep your new plane nice and warm and toasty.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room back there.
Yeah, can you imagine putting an exhaust shroud through there? It's pretty tight. All of these wires you see coiled up here are running to different sensors. So this is a fuel flow transducer. So fuel flows through this to the carburetor, so it gives you the actual fuel flow that you're operating at. A lot of the wires go up to, like this guy here. This is the exhaust stack, so this is a thermocouple that's plugged through into the exhaust stream, which measures your exhaust gas temperature, or EGT, which you can then manage with your mixture to get the most efficient fuel burn and fuel savings. It also has, and there's this EGT on every cylinder, so you got 4 probe EGT. And then it also, back up in here, there's another wire that's going up to another thermocouple that's embedded into the cylinder, which gives you cylinder head temperature. So you can manage all 4 of your cylinder head temperatures. It also has electric, or this is all, the stuff I'm talking about right now is all through Electronics International, and they're also monitoring oil temperature, oil pressure, carburetor inlet temperature, so you can see if you're getting close to getting carburetor ice. And then we're also got fuel quantity, which will be digitally displayed. And for the old school guys, we're still putting the visual sight gauges up in the wing root, so you can see your actual fuel levels. Trying to think what else that Electronics International is monitoring. Volts and amps, both on the battery and the alternator side. Outside air temperature, we got a little probe mounted right up here. So once this cowling is down and sealed, you'll be monitoring your outside air temperature there.
Hey Sean, the first flight we're thinking is probably going to be
Saturday.
And we'll get a video put together and sent out for everybody.
Yeah, so you can see the cowling's not obviously completely secured, but that's a 20-minute job to put all the hardware in that and have the cowling installed. Let's go around this way.
Anyway.
No, you're good. So over on this side, a lot of similar stuff, but the Sutton exhaust stack comes out here, and it will have an adapter that'll go on there once we get the cowling secured permanently, and that adapter will extend the exhaust flow down so you don't stain your belly. Buried back up in here is a plain power alternator, and on the other side a Skytech starter.
There you go.
And then there's a 4-cylinder priming, so a couple shots of prime and the thing will fire right up.
And Sean wants to know how much to build this plane. So if we can't win it, I guess he's gonna buy it.
Yeah, right, Sean.
Build his own.
Retail to do this airplane would be high 200s. I mean, it is essentially a brand new airplane. I think the rudder pedals might be original. You can see back up here, you got the plain power voltage regulator that's managing the alternator, and then you can see those 4 wires running up to shunts, and they're basically pass through for current pickup so that the Electronics International can read your current. You can see the Tannis preheater plugs right here, so when you're checking your oil, you can unplug your cord, and you've got a little red light here. If we were to plug a cord into there, that light would come on and tell you that you got power.
That's handy.
You can see this is part of the Electro Air electronic ignition. It's a coil pack, so that is managed by a computer that's buried up under here, and it tells when the sparks are supposed to fly.
Okay.
The mag pickup for the Electro Air is back here. If I can shine a flashlight in there, see any
No, I
better.
can see it. Whoa.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, no, that makes it worse.
So rather than a mag being there, that black box with the Electro Air label is in place of the mag.
So we're getting a ton of questions. So
All right, let's take a question
here
break.
we go. Let's put your face in it. Okay. We'll get Andrew's backside in it as well.
Beardless
All right.
Andrew.
So let's see. Estimates on weight, and don't give them too much information because we're doing the contest.
Yeah, I don't know if I should even guess because it would ruin the contest, but it's not going to be lightest plane we built. I can tell you that. I mean, it's got so much stuff on it that it's going to be on the heavier side. We kept weight in mind, but it wasn't our primary goal. This plane was more about making an awesome performer for the working, guide type guy, and you'll see some of that other stuff later. But with the 180 horsepower engine, the constant speed prop, the big tires, the gear, everything you do ends up adding a little bit of weight. You put in a large baggage door, well, you got a welded steel frame in there, so that's going to add a pound or two. It's got, we can go ahead and talk about the wings a little bit here. It's got a leading edge cuff from Crosswind Stoll, sponsored, which droops the leading edge down. And that's a whole additional leading edge that goes on, so there's more weight. It's got the Vortex generators from Micro Aerodynamics. Not a lot of weight there, but ounces will add up. So. Unfortunately, you can't have the best of both worlds. You got to pick and choose. These are really cool. They're from Flylight, and they're an underwing light that goes in an inspection panel, so you can come pre-flight your airplane in the dark.
That's pretty cool. Or camp under your wing at the time you to fly in.
Yeah. Before we leave this area, I wanted to show you guys this panel. You probably saw it previously before it was installed, but behind there is the battery and the master and starter relays. So pretty easy way to access your battery. Of course, there's a handful of screws you got to remove, but yeah.
And
that's a lightweight Odyssey battery as well.
I need to take some time off from work so I can fly this to Kevin in Australia when he wins it.
Wow.
So that's going to be a long flight.
Yeah, but it does have 24-gallon tanks on each side from Sky Air Parts. Donated those Dakota Cub tanks. So you'll have a little bit more range. You're probably going to need a marine support to land on a barge and refuel along the way, but
No, I'll just get hooked up with the tanker.
yeah.
They'll fuel me up. Mark wants to know, he said, with all the new tech and enlarged tanks, what is your estimate on approximate run time not loaded down?
Good question. So I guess it's run time is the question. How long can you fly this for before you run out of gas? So you got 48 gallons total fuel, and you got the ability to manage your engine to be able to lean it out the best you can, and you have a constant speed prop that'll be able to get you there quicker. So I'm going to say that you lean this out and cruise, say at 5,000 feet, and you'll probably be able to bring it back to 7 gallons an hour, and you'll probably be cruising at 120 miles an hour. So 48 divided by 7 is 9. Quick math. Now let's see. Let's get out the brain and I'll do that math if somebody doesn't beat me to it first. So 48 divided by 7 is 6.8 hours of flight time, and that's straight time. So you need your half-hour reserve a day and 45 at night. So plan on 6 hours max. And let's see, 6 times 120.
It's been a long day.
It has. It's been a long several
days.
months. 6 times 120 gives us 720 miles range.
Okay.
But you're probably going to need to bring a pee bottle or stop for a bathroom break.
Well, someone else wants it ferried to Texas, so maybe we can ferry it to Texas, and if they don't win it off to Australia.
Yeah.
We have a request. Someone would like you to pull down the flaps.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
The P-Stole flaps from Airframes, Alaska. Make sure they're clear and Andrew doesn't have anything in there. Here they come. That's it.
Go over here.
Go to the other side. So the idea is these probably look familiar to a lot of people that have flown on airliners. So the air will come over the top of this and help adhere it to the top surface of this part of the flap, which is called the vane. And then additional air will come down through here and help adhere it to this side. So this top one is essentially changing the angle of attack for the bottom one. So you're able to get 50 degrees of flaps on this lower one, 20 degrees on the top one, and a lot of lift. And this is the third or fourth airplane we put these on, and it's definitely a noticeable difference. One of the big things is if you're used to flying a Cub with standard flaps, when you pull the flap handle, you feel the flaps come down and you feel a deceleration, and you just grab the trim and wind it a couple times, take the load off, and you're good to go. You do that same thing with this, and if you don't watch your airspeed, you're going to stall it because you have to push the nose way over to keep from stalling. So the advantage to that is that now your sight picture when you're coming into land is going to be much more visible of your touchdown area. So you're actually coming in at a significantly lower pitch angle when you're about to land. It also reduces your stall speed significantly. Last year's airplane was stalling with the G5 in there, which is real airspeed. It was stalling at 20 miles an hour at 1,000 feet and probably 1,800 RPM. So there's a little bit of prop blast to help keep the speed up. But it was, when I saw that, I was like, what? Something's got to be wrong here. But the airspeed indicator concurred. So
that brings up another question. Are you going to do flight testing to find stall speeds and fuel consumption at percent of power by the time of the giveaway?
Not to a scientific degree, but we'll definitely stall it. We want to know what the stall characteristics are like and make sure we rigged everything properly, and that'll give us the stall speed right there. And then as far as fuel burn, we're probably not going to have much time to do, dead reckoning calculations of performance based on fuel quantity burn, but the CGRs and the panel will tell us exactly what it's burning. So on our way to Anchorage, we'll be able to lean it out, watch our temperatures, and see what it's actually doing. I won't do that for very long because it's a brand new engine, and you're going to run those rich through break-in. So the first few hours, it needs to be full rich. So probably by the time we're going to Anchorage, it'll be broken enough to lean it out and test that.
And Matt, the engine has not been broken in yet. So yeah, who's flying this thing for the first time?
You're talking to him. I get to be master mechanic and test pilot. So I guess the good thing for you guys is that if I'm willing to build it and fly it, then it's got to be safe, right? It's pretty nerve-wracking building an airplane like this and then getting out on that runway the first time and throwing the throttle at it. You're just gonna pre-flight and pre-flight and pre-flight and pre-flight and test run several times, double check for leaks and anything loose or missing, and then you just got to go for it. So
Sean wants to meet us in Anchorage when we land, when we bring the plane down.
Sure. Yeah, usually we land at Lake Hood at the strip there, and we'll be going right by Ace Fuel. Historically, we'll have a ADN, Anchorage Daily News photographer there, and so we'll stop and talk to him and give him a briefing on the plane, but I don't know if that's happening this year or not. So.
And yes, Mark, we cry every time we get rid of one of our Raffle planes.
Yeah, it's sad.
We do miss them. We put so much time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears into these things, and then they just leave. Quite rude of them.
But at the same time, the last couple of years have been locals in South Central that have won them, and we keep in touch with them.
We get to see them fly in.
Yep.
It's like watching a kid come home.
Yeah. So the instrument panel is all complete, and we can even make it light up.
We're probably flying down Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on weather.
It'll either be Tuesday or Wednesday.
We'll let you know when we leave here.
So...
Andrew, PC said you're being dangerous on the ladder.
Oh, jeez.
I want someone taller on it.
So, essentially, we've got all kinds of bells and whistles in the panel. A Garmin 796 with full terrain and what do they call it? Artificial. What do they call that? Remember what they call that?
What's that?
The artificial horizon with terrain and everything.
ARs.
Synthetic vision.
Yeah, synthetic vision.
Yep, synthetic vision. And that's going to also display full ADS-B, so all the traffic with transponders will show up on there. And then, we got that engine control area there. We're swapping camera people.
I'm gonna swap out.
We'll see if Andrew can do as good a job as her. You got to ask questions when they come up. So on the left we got a clock from Mid-Continent, digital clock with USB charging ports. You got a 12 volt aux power adapter below that. You got the G5, which gives you airspeed, altitude, vertical speed, an attitude indicator, barometric pressure, everything's on there. Of course, we've got to have the airspeed indicator and altimeter by regulation, which Mid-Continent provided. We've got the two CGRs down here. We got a 30P and a 30C. One of the cool things we found just the other day is that the C actually has a checklist, and you can scroll down through the checklist, and as you go, you can mark off, yep, I checked my flap, whoops, checked my flaps, fuel selectors on main, mixture is full rich, and you can go through and it's got startup and takeoff, cruise, landing, everything's on there. So that's cool.
Kevin wants to know why we did white in Alaska on the airplane. He thinks it'll be hard to find in the snow.
Yeah, I guess that's a consideration. But one of the things that we did that'll help people find you is we did all of these fancy lights. Let's go walk around the airplane. And
watch out for the flat. Maybe we should put the flat back up.
so we've got all kinds of lights on this guy. I'm not going to walk over there because it's really bright. They're LED. The wingtips and the landing and taxi lights are all Whalen, and they were sponsored, and they're all LED, and they're super bright. And the tail is an Aero LED nav strobe, which is fully TSO'd. Everything on this airplane is certified, so everything's either TSO'd or PMA'd, or otherwise certified. And there's also a beacon from Whalen up on top of the tail. Maybe get that in there. Yep, that's Aero LED, the sun tail. I looked at them, darn it. So yeah, hopefully that'll offset the white factor.
I'm gonna go turn the hanger lights off real quick. You can see it a little brighter.
All right. While we're back at the tail, we got a baby bush wheel from Alaska Bush Wheel. What else we got back here? Heavy duty spring.
The Cub Crafter gap seals.
Oh yes, the Cub Crafter gap seals. Helps keep the tail flying at slow speeds. And as you can see, we have to put the finishing panel on there. It'll be one of these. It's a plexiglass, smoked plexiglass, so you can still see in there to do your pre-flight inspections rather than like an aluminum cover. You can see the glass a lot better back here. Got the L21 windows, which are a lot longer, and then full greenhouse comes all the way back. And the top's smoked tinted, the sides are not. And yeah.
Jeremiah Hillis wants to know what this plane would retail at, and Sean wants to know if it can fly IFR.
So retail, if we built it and we were trying to sell it and for a profit, it would probably be start around $300,000. But you know, everything's only as good as what somebody will pay for it. Oh yes, we've got these.
Yep.
These are David Clarke helmets. They were hydro-dipped by Alaska Hydrographics.
Mm-hmm. They have this nice little insert thing that you put on the inside of them, and then you can also get a visor for them if you want to get a visor.
And it also includes a noise canceling David Clarke.
We have 2 helmets, so you and your passenger will be safe, and then 1 headset.
Sean wants to know if you can fly IFR.
Oh yeah, the IFR, no. This is not equipped for IFR. Only because you have to have more instrumentation for IFR. Technically the G5 has all the information, but it's not certified for IFR use for all the information that it provides. It is certified for like just an attitude indicator, but you still need to have a turn and bank, and then of course you'd need your navigational aids, VORs, anything. You have to have the equipment to be able to fly the approach. So no, this is just VFR. However, in a bind, if you got into a situation, you got so much stuff on that panel that you'd probably be able to find your way out, especially with that synthetic vision.
And Paul wants to know, how will I fly it through Canada with 4-inch tail numbers? I thought they require 12-inch numbers.
That's a good question. So yeah, I guess I hadn't even thought about that. You'd probably have to get some stickers. Put a 12-inch sticker on there. I'm pretty sure you're accurate.
Stickers now too, so they're removable.
Yeah. Everything you see on here is all paint except for the tail number. That's just a vinyl sticker, so you could peel those off and put 12-inch on there, and we could set you up with the sign company that cuts those for us. So.
And Matt wants to know Bose A&R headset power plug or regular 2-plug?
I'm not familiar with that. It has a regular 2-plug front and back for regular headsets. It comes with a noise canceling David Clarke headset though. Hope that answers your question. I do want to grab the cowling real quick. The nose bowl doors. Since we were talking about everything on here is paint, I wanted to show you guys this. So the way we did that is we had a vinyl sticker that we put down, and then we painted the blue, and then we very, very carefully peeled that sticker off to expose that.
Steve wants to know what the approximate tax burden would be if someone won this.
It would be, historically, it's between $30,000 and $40,000. So $30,000 to $40,000 for nearly a $300,000 airplane. That's a pretty good deal. Plus the $60 to buy the ticket. So, yeah, so we just have a couple more finishing touches to do, and we'll keep you guys apprised. We progress through the flying portion of things, and we'll get that fluffer video made this weekend, and we'll be airing it probably, if not before the show, then at the show. So, yeah, thanks to everybody for tuning in, and we will see you at the show.